Hello and welcome back. I am Veenu Keller from Redefine Parenting. I want to welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and H.E.R Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores and iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. These apps is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, and Roku sticks, all smart TVs 2016 and forward. I am so excited to have this amazing guest with me today. I have been working with families for over 23, 24 years now. And through my journey, I've had the opportunity to really work with a lot of kids that are struggling with their identity. Parents come to me all the time with, my child's depressed, my child has anxiety. A lot of times, when we get to the root cause of it, a lot of it stems from identity. And today I have this amazing, beautiful mother. Her name is Arlette, who I have recently started to coach her and her daughter, and in the realms of identity again. And when Arlette came to me, actually, Arlette, I'm going to let you explain to our viewers, the journey that you've been on, and we'll start the discussion from there.
Well, thank you. And hi, Veenu. So good to see you today.
You too.
Oh, wow. I guess this journey started sometime in January, where my child started saying that they identified as they and all the other pronouns, just not she. And I found a note on her floor. Is this a story that you want me to tell?
Yep.
I found the note on her floor, and it was all Alice in Wonderland, like open me on each side to make sure that it was seen. And it was 10 o'clock at night. So I opened it, and it was all the reasons why they had written all the reasons why they shouldn't be here. And as a parent, you read this and there's like 12 or 13 reasons, and your heart just sinks, and they're sleeping and you want to wake them up and say, what is this all about? But the next day, talking with their therapist, the therapist was saying, you need to go have them assessed and check them in because they're going to hurt themselves. And a good friend introduced me to you and said, let's check this out a different way, because it doesn't sound like they want to hurt themselves. It sounds like they just want to be heard. And that was our journey. That was the beginning of the journey, where as a parent for the last 3 months, I was hearing the information that my child was telling me, but I wasn't acting on that information. I was avoiding that information. So my child, in effect, was invisible to the main person that they didn't want to be invisible to.
Right. I just got chills.
Yeah, hence the Alice in Wonderland note, like, eat me, see me, so, but I thought, because Fee is the youngest of my children, I have 4 and I have adult children, I thought I was seeing them. I've done this before. I'm a parent, and I hadn't done this before. Right. And I am a loving parent, but my child had no agency with me.
And thank you so much. First of all, I just want to thank you, because there's a lot of parents out there that don't want to admit it, right? I mean, I'm a parent of 6 kids, and to say, you know what, I screwed up here, or you know what, I wasn't the best parent I can be, because no matter how many books there are, I grew up in the era of, in the 70s and 80s. And I think my mom said there was that book, Dr. Spock's book on raising kids, and people thought that was the way to raise kids, right? And then we grew up with spare the rod, spoil the child. And then we grew up with oh no, if you spank your kid, you're going to be abusing them. We're going to report you to DSS. It's with all the times are changing and we're trying to keep up as parents, it's what is the best method to raise our kids where they feel seen and heard? And, speaking with your daughter, it was interesting because, and I think I told you so on the first call, I said, she's not suicidal. This girl has purpose. She has a purpose, she does not want to kill herself. But what she wants is, she wants you to see her for the person she wants to be, and which brings us to this subject that I have 6 clients that identify non-binary. They don't want to be seen by a label. They don't want to be seen as that they like a girl or a boy. Matter of fact, some of them don't even want to be seen as bisexual or heterosexual. They don't want the labels. Literally, they want to take the labels off, and a lot of parents, and I'm sure you as well, as we discussed, is how do they know at this age? Because I mean, at 12, 13, how do we really know? At 14, how do we really know? And I say this to parents is that there is a group out there. And when we feel lonely, we're able to become part of these groups. And we are who we hang out with. And these people accept them. And all of a sudden they start to say, wait, I feel comfortable here.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like when you're hearing all this for the first time, that your daughter wants to identify as a they want to change their name from the given birth name you've given them to a different identity. What's going on with you as a mom? Like what's going on? Like, just if we're going to be real and raw, what are some of your feelings that you're feeling in that moment?
Oh my God. I said and did all the wrong things. I mean, my first thought was, we're Black. Can't you just be gay? It's okay. Gay is good. This is such a harder road, especially when you bring race into it and different cultures. Um, it was safety for my kid. I want my kid to be safe, and it's the fear is what was driving me more than the love at that point. The fear was driven by the love, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But what I was doing, again, having raised all these children, I was doing all the wrong things for this kid. That fear is never the right filter, and if I throw more love and curiosity at it, it works better.
Mm.
And that keeps my kids safe. And that's what you helped me get to. It's like I knew this, but I was hit with some information, literally hit with some information that I didn't know what to do with.
Right.
How do I parent around this? How do I help? And I was saying things that were actually hurting.
Yeah.
It was out of love, which a lot of us do, but still not what was needed.
Yeah. And I think that at that point too, you hit on some stuff is that we feel like we're doing it wrong because we see the reaction or the non-reaction from our kids. We're not seeing like, what is it that they really need to be seen and heard. And I remember like one situation that you were saying is that it was interesting because, they had asked you, well, when you signed me up, I think it was for swimming or something like that. Can you use this name for me? And that was them saying to you, can you call me that too? And I remember the conversation, and I remember the conversation with her, and it was like, so have you told your mom you wanted this name? Well, yeah. And she just refuses. These are her words, right? She just refuses to accept it. She refuses to call me that. And then I said, how specifically did you ask her? Well, she said she was signing me up for swimming, and you know, what name did and I said, can you put me as this name? And she said, oh, okay. And she's like, and she still didn't call me that. And that was her way of asking, right? Like
Yeah.
she wanted you to say, well, do you want me to call you that? Do you want me just to put it down? Because I know talking to you, you're like, Veenu, I had no idea. Like it was just, hey, can you register me this name? So I just assumed she wanted other people to call her. I didn't know she wanted us to call her that. And it was such an epiphany, I think, for you as well, to realize that sometimes when our kids are asking us to do something, for them, that's the best way they know how to ask.
Exactly. And a
You know,
lot of adults are that way as well. They ask around an issue, but I wasn't, I thought it was a nickname. I really didn't know. I was clueless. And that's when Fee says that I wasn't listening, your first defense is to be defensive and say, well, I am listening. I actually hear everything you say. And then you start listing all the inane things, but I wasn't hearing her heart at the
Mhm.
time. I wasn't hearing their heart.
Right, right. So, going through this journey for like other parents, because there's parents out there, I'm going to tell you that don't even know that their kids are going through this. Like they're living this like a double life. Like they're living this life of being that different person at school. And, teachers aren't saying anything anymore. They're just accepting it. Friends are just accepting it. And then you're finding out they also have friends that have kind of like an alter ego, if you would, because it's like a whole different identity, a whole different gender or non-gender, if you would. And, you know, sometimes parents are the last ones to know. What do you feel if you were going back into your daughter's mind in that moment? What do you think she was really afraid of?
Well, I got more curious, and I actually have their answer for this. They were afraid of not belonging, of not being accepted by me.
Mm,
Me not, it's not even understanding, but me not accepting them, me not loving them because it's
mm,
different, and they've seen so many. They have friends. I mean, they, like you said, they have this whole community in that we're not privy to, as they get older. And they've heard the stories from other kids who've struggled and haven't been accepted. And so I think it's primal. They just assume that they're going to be discarded in some way.
right. Do you feel like in any way that did you feel like you failed as a parent, like you should have known something? Is there something you should have done better? Like, what are some of the feelings you feel as a parent when your child's coming out saying, hey, look, don't call me a she. I don't want to identify as a girl anymore. I want to be a they. I want my name to be this. Like, what thoughts are going through your mind as a parent? Do you blame yourself? Is there anything that you're thinking in that moment?
I didn't blame myself for anything, for not noticing anything, because I mean, I think I blame myself more, or now understanding, taking more responsibility for how I reacted rather than responded, because
Mm,
I was super like, you're going to try on different hats. You're going to figure out who you are, let's not worry about labels.
right.
This too shall pass. I was more along that, because we actually don't know. You're 12, you don't know who or what you're going to be. Let's be open to everything. And but I wasn't being present in the moment. So I have regrets about that. That their
Mm,
initiation into their identity and claiming their identity was their mom saying, being dismissive, basically, not honoring their feelings because of ageism. So I have regrets about that. But as far as failing as a parent early on, um, I wasn't feeling any of that, because I think that we all do the best that we can. And I think that I've been very present for them their whole lives.
mhm,
And this was the one thing I wasn't hearing.
mm. So I just want to hit on that point because you're so right. We can be so present in our children's life and yet still not hear them.
Yeah, so
And
totally.
hearing that and hearing them means hearing them the way they need to be heard, not the way we think. It's like, you know, when we go and we ask our kids, if there was something I can do better, and all of a sudden they tell us, we I know I do. I still go into defense mode going, but wait, I didn't do it that way. Because in my mind, in my perception, I didn't do it that way. But in my child's 9-year-old mind, or in your child's, 12-year-old mind, or like what in their mind, we did do it that way. And so one of the, strategies that I share with parents is hear them through their perception. Just own it. Just say, you know what? I own it. I own that's what you saw. So if I was going to do it differently, what would that look like to you?
Exactly. And I think this starts a lot sooner than, I don't think, I know, I absolutely know. This starts a lot sooner than middle school. It starts in the very beginning, because when the kids are babies, through toddlerhood and through elementary, we're basically creating their perceptions.
Mm,
We're feeding them the information that we feel like they need to know. And that is the worst thing that we can ever do. As a
yeah.
We're not listening. Now that I'm talking about this, we're not listening from the very beginning. We're not hearing a lot of things because we're so busy structuring,
Mm,
that when it comes out in middle school, we're shocked, like, oh my God. But it's actually been there from the very beginning,
right.
from the
And
choices, all the choices.
I agree. And even with like the whole, like most kids, and I don't say this for those that are listening that, your kids that are saying they're suicidal, they're really not. I'm not saying that, because I'm going to tell you, I was suicidal from the time I was 13, and I really was. Like, if I could figure out a way to get rid of myself, I would have. Like, I literally would have. Like, there was no, I want attention. My mom's not seeing me. It was, I could not bear the bullying anymore. I cannot bear going to school and feeling that I'm ostracized from everybody. Nobody likes me and I'm all alone. And so what's the point? So I'm not saying what I'm going to say now to say your kid's not. But what I am saying is a lot of times there are kids that are saying, like, like Arlette was saying, there is that 13, point checklist. Her daughter wanted to be seen. She wanted to be heard in a way that she was not being seen and heard. And look what happened. As soon as because I asked her, I said, so about that letter, she goes, oh, I can't believe she found it. I said, come on, like, really, you can't, like, it said open me. And she goes, well, she goes, I kind of thought it was like stuffed in this little area. And I said, really? So you did not think by any means it being on your floor, in the middle of the floor where your mom would walk and see it, and it said big letters, open me. And she just started to giggle. And I said, but your outcome was met because we're on this call today. And she started crying.
It said open me on both sides, just in case it flipped on the other side. It's like, open me. You better open me.
Right. And so when I asked, and so we went through that, and this is when we were building rapport, and I said, but isn't that great because your outcome was met because we're on a call today?
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, do you feel like you need to go to a hospital, that you need to be protected? She looked at me like I had 5 eyes, and she's like, no. And I said, so tell me what this really means. She goes, well, let me first tell you all the things that I want to do. She goes, did you know I have a bucket list? And in that moment of her telling me she has a bucket list that she wants to do, I knew that she was no way, no how suicidal. But what I did know is that there was a person inside of her that was hurting to come out and be seen and be appreciated for the person that, is developing. In doing so, and I said, I remember, our call, Arlette, is give her what she needs right now. If she needs to be called that name, call her that. If she wants to go by they, then we're going to be calling her they. And I also had to teach her to give you grace.
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing, because at this age, I remember I was using that word grace and grace and grace a lot, and they had no idea what grace meant. And so at some point I said, wait, do you know what grace means? And they said, no. I was like, oh, no wonder this is falling flat. So there's a definition of all things, and the pronoun thing, I believe, is hard for a lot of us parents, because we've lived so many, years on this earth saying things grammatically a different way. And also we are part of those social constructs of the pronouns are these, if you're gay, the pronouns are still the same, so this non-binary is different, and it's not at the same time. And our brains have to catch up, or else we're hurting our children. And just saying something like I was saying, what was I saying? I'm getting there, it takes time, da 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 da. No kid wants to hear that, because their perspective is, you love me, my friends did it, you can do it too. And they're right. They're completely right. But having the name Fiona and saying they instead of she, when I said she for so long, it's a switch. It's a shift. But I can do hard things. This isn't so hard. I can do this, so, and it was just my own obstinance, my own need to have order, my own significance. And when I figured out that, I realized it had nothing to do with me.
Right.
Just had to do what was needed.
And I think that's what a lot of parents go through, is like the judgment.
Yeah.
The judgment. And I've been teaching this to a lot of my coaching clients lately, is true freedom in our life is not having to prove ourselves again to anybody, to just show up, be us, because we all want the 7.4 billion people in the world to like us. And let's just face the facts. Half of them, majority of them, 90% of them are not even going to know who you are. And the other 10% that do, not all of them are going to like you. So just be you, because you only get one shot at it. Yeah. And that is the true freedom of how we show up. And we have to role model that for our kids. And part of hearing them is respecting them. And a lot of parents would say, so you're telling me, like, if my kid wants to be transgender, I should go ahead and let them take the hormones and all that? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that when they become 18, they're going to be able to make a lot of choices for themselves that we're not going to have a say in. And what they're going to need at that time when they're 18 is your love and support. So if you can give their love and support right now and just formalizing if they want to dress like a boy, let them dress like a boy. If they want to be called a different name, call them that name. If they want to be respected by they or he, then call them they or he. It's not changing them. And it's not even saying that, you know what, my kids like this and you guys, the world's wrong. And because a lot of people do say this is a huge controversy that if you go along with that, then you're enabling your kid to be that. And it's a fine line we're going to walk. But I will tell you, if my child asks me to all of a sudden call him a girl and he wants to wear dresses and stuff, I'm going to do that because I want him to know I love him. I want him to know I respect him. And I want him to know I support him. And he is more important than that 10% out in that world. And when he becomes 18, when he becomes 28, when his frontal lobe is fully developed and he chooses to say, you know what, actually, mom, it was a phase because I needed to feel belonged. And now that I know who I am, I really am a boy, whatever. I want to support him when he does that too. Because I'm going to tell you, there's a huge population that is suicidal in their 20s and late 20s because they got so caught up in the non-gender and changing their gender and going through therapists and wanting to be different. And now they started doing things to their body to be different. And then all of a sudden they're realizing like, wait a second, I think I am who I originally was supposed to be, you know? So it's, as a parent, what are we doing to support our child? Because they're the most important thing. They're the ones who need to know that you love them and support them, not the rest of the world.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing as well is getting educated on what non-binary means,
Yes.
um, what transgender actually means, what body dysphoria actually is. And if we can educate on ourselves on these topics without judgment, even for ourselves, it makes it easy for us to understand and be present where our children are at right now. Because we don't know. Some parents are saying, my kid's going to be a doctor, and we don't know. And it's the same with gender. We don't know. So when we find out, when they tell us, let's believe them. No harm, no foul. It doesn't create anything other than it creates peace. It's helpful. It creates love and bonding. So it doesn't hurt, but ignoring someone's path, and thinking it's going to be a phase or thinking that, well, later on they'll decide something different. That's disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want anyone telling me that. So why not?
Right. And I
It
think
doesn't
you
hurt.
said something before is that like you're the one she wanted to love her and believe in her the most. And that's who we need to be for our kids. Because if we show up for them and we come with no agenda, who they need to be, how they need to be, if they want to be gay, if they want to be bi, if they want to be straight, like, I think one of my clients who's 12, actually, I was on a conversation with her and she said to me that why does it matter if I'm non-binary or not? Like, why does it matter if I'm a girl or not? Why does it matter if I'm gay or not? She goes, I'm 12 for God's sake.
Exactly.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I said, she goes, I don't push it with my parents. I don't push it with my friends because I'm just me. Like, I am just myself. And I want to be seen for me. And so why am I going to make a fit about a pronoun or a gender or whatever? Like, why are we making it such a bigger deal than it really is? And I was like, holy cow, like this is from a 12-year-old. And I said, where does your thought process come from? Because then I have other kids, just, like your daughter, where she's upset that they're not calling me the same. They're still saying she. And if I correct her, they get mad and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. It's like, how do we go from one to the other? And it was interesting because I actually shared this story with Fee, and I believe it got better at your house afterwards because I said, if you know who you are and your mom is learning who you are, and she, for the most part, is respecting the day, she's calling you by the name you want. My question to you is, what are you trying to prove by pushing the issue? Like, you didn't do it, and getting upset. Is it worth it? And your daughter said, well, no, you're right. And it was like an aha moment for her as well.
Yeah, it was a total aha moment, and I think after that, they came to us and said, "Daughter and sister are okay. She is not." And I said, "Okay." And basically what I did was, I followed the advice, thank you, Veenu, and I went about it with more curiosity and also more acceptance, because at that point, I was aware that I wasn't accepting the
Mm.
change in our the shift in our house, and so I I basically, we reintroduced ourselves, and I said, "Nice to meet you. Thank you for telling me who you are."
Oh,
And that was a pivotal moment. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. But, I think when you're running through that fear filter, you don't have access to everything.
you're right. And I always tell people, fear, most people allow fear to be a stop sign. So it
Yeah,
just stops us. It stops us from moving forward. It doesn't even let us go backwards. It's just like we get frozen in that moment. It's a stop sign.
yeah,
And I tell parents, let fear be your caution sign. What is it making you aware of? What does it want you to be curious of? What is it that you need to move forward just with caution?
yeah.
So we're
And
being
most
mindful.
most times, that caution sign is for us,
Mm,
and what are we afraid of inside of us?
mm-hmm,
And a lot of parents that I know, we talk a great game when it's not our kids until it's our kid, and then we realize what the fear is for us
mm-hmm.
if we're willing to go there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point, that's a pivotal moment for us as parents and as people. What's stopping us from moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
Not just for our kids, but for our own growth.
Right. And it's funny because I get people that know my kids. They're like, "Your kids aren't your walking, talking business card," and I'm like, "I'm so happy because they're not. My kids aren't my
Right.
business card. They're my kids." And I was just telling somebody the other day um, that my daughter had done something at school, and I was like, "Oh, geez, like I got to handle this." I said, "I need to get a coach for my daughter," and someone like, "I mean, aren't you a coach?" I said, "I'm not a coach for my own kids. I'm their
Yeah,
mama. I'm the one who's emotional with them. I'm the one who gets agitated with them. I'm the one who has expectations that don't get met by them. I'm the one who disappoints them. I'm the one who guides them. I'm the one who's strict with them. I can't coach them, you know,
exactly.
because I have my own blind spots as a parent. And I'm very vulnerable about that. I'm very transparent. And I will say that there's no strategies that I don't give the parents that I coach that I don't follow myself. And I'll give a great example. My daughter hit somebody on field day. And when we got home, I processed with her. I'm like, tell me what he felt when you hit him. Because her go to is, oh, it was a joke. Like, we already know it's not a joke to put your hands on somebody. Okay. So let's just talk about, what did he feel in that moment? And what is he thinking about you? And I said, and I need you to go write it down for me. And she goes, that's it? Like, you're not going to take anything away? I said, I don't take anything away. Like, everything in our house is an award. Like, it's a reward. It's not a punishment. And I said, no, I'm not going to take anything away from you. I just want you to have that moment to think about what that other child felt like, because feelings move people. When we get to feel
Yeah,
what the other person was feeling in that moment. And then I said, and we're going to get a card, and you're going to write him an apology card. And it's going to say more than just, I'm sorry. You're going to say how you think you made him feel, and that was not right of you. And that,
oh,
you're
yeah.
aware of how you made him feel. And that's it. And she goes, I'm so embarrassed. I said, I mean, are you more embarrassed to give him the card than you were to hit him? And she gave him the card. And afterwards we processed. I say, how did you feel? She goes, well, it was kind of a little weird. And I told him not to show anybody. She goes, but I feel better about it. And I promise you, she probably will never hit him again.
Well, teaching empathetic kids is harder than we think, and I
Mhm.
think you went about it well, of course, right? You know, as a fellow coach, it's like, what are we learning?
Right?
How are we walking that walk? And empathy is a tough one because a lot of times as adults, we don't know what that looks like, how to explain
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
how to teach that ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
great I'm writing this down, what you just said.
Well, because, it's like one of my mentors, Joseph McClendon, says, if you ever want to move somebody, you got to move them emotionally. They got to feel what you want them to do.
Oh,
Right.
totally.
And, and we all have to be open to the coaching. Like my husband told me the other day, he's like, I get you're trying to get our daughter to understand different standards and values because, and it brings us back into this like full circle back in this non-binary, why our kids get attached to different people and different things. And there's these 3 girls that my daughter wants to, regardless, they tell her, we don't want to hang out with you, we don't like you or whatever. She has this pull to want to be with them. And I was thinking about it because I went to New Jersey last week to speak on bullying, self-harm, and suicide at a school. And on the plane, I was like racking my brain. I was like, how do I teach her that as much as they don't fill you up, stop wasting your energy, like go somewhere else, like where, you'll get charged. And I use that whole receptacle. It's a dead receptacle you keep trying to plug into. It's not charging you. Go plug into people who are going to fill you up. That's not working either. And I realized, because we do it as adults too, we always want the people that don't like us to like us. And then as soon as they like us, it's like some big, thing that we just accomplished in our life. And now we're good. And then we don't even care if they like us anymore. It was just like we had to get them to like us. And so when I'm going through like her clothes and stuff, like my daughter's an artist, and I'm sure you can relate to this because you're an artist. She sees things differently than the way we see things. Like she does not care if things are stained or wrinkled or whatever, because she's just going to go and paint and get more paint on it. Like in her mind, things aren't ruined. It just is. It's she's like, it shows how much I work today, mom. Like that's her mindset. My mindset is, you have nice clothes. Like, why are we wearing the wrinkled, painted, stained clothes to school? Like you have a whole closet full because they're comfortable. And she doesn't have the filter that, okay, maybe these girls don't like me because they're all prim and proper. Everything's done. Like she doesn't care about her hair. Like my daughter just likes to be comfortable. Like that's all she wants is comfort. She doesn't care about style. She doesn't care about any of that. And she's a true artist. Like she can make like 5 different outfits out of one shirt without even cutting it or sewing it. I can't even do that. I cannot do that. She will take her pajamas every night and come out and say, Mom, do you like this style? She goes, okay, wait, watch this. And then she'll tie the sleeves a different way. She goes, what about this? Like, where does she come up with this stuff? Like, she's a pure artist. And my husband says, do not take away her strength of artistry just because she wants to fit in.
Right.
And I was like, oh, he's like, and I can understand, because I mean, I was bullied, right? So I think as parents always want to keep our kids away from the suffering that we felt we went through.
Mm-hmm.
And so we try to block that. We try to protect them. And in all actuality, my husband's like, I get that's what you're trying to do. He's like, and she has to walk her walk too. And I was like, oh God. And that's what our kids are doing, that are identifying non-binary. They're in this atmosphere where they're accepted, they're seen, they're appreciated,
Let
and
it be.
they get
And
to be them.
right. And we just need to let it be. And I think as parents, we tried to give them the benefit of our experience. But the thing is that this isn't our experience. This is their experience. And even if we had experienced this, it's still theirs. And part of loving someone is to let them have their own experiences, for good, bad, or indifferent. It's theirs.
Right.
And support them through that and not tell them later, see, I told you so, or the smugness, that goes along with age and ignorance. But being truly in love with yourself enough to allow someone to figure out how to love themselves. That's the big deal. And without us telling them, this is how you do it. No, that's a nice song, but it's in my head now. But that's not how you do it.
No, it's like I always say, and you know this very well, be curious, not critical. Get
Yes.
curious, ask questions. And you know what? I did ask my daughter. I said, what did you hear me say last night? And if I could say it in a way that didn't hurt your feelings or didn't take anything away from you, how would I have said it? And she told me. And that's what we need to do. If we just ask our kids what the formula is, they'll give it to us.
Which means we have to take the ego here and set it on a table somewhere, because it doesn't work here. It's not necessary and it's completely wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agree. And if we want to help our children through this opportunity, and that's what we need to look at it. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to get to know our kids in a different way than we've never seen. And you know what? And this is just a theory. I think that after coming through COVID and people feeling so isolated, that our kids going back to school had to relearn how to connect again, how to relearn how to engage again. And, some people weren't friends anymore because things happened or whatnot,
Yeah.
and like they were finding their new groups. And, you know, everywhere we turn, we're hearing, like, when you and I grew up, we never saw gay people on TV ever. I mean, when I looked at some of the TV shows I watched, like the Brady Bunch and Leave It to Beaver, there wasn't even any black colored people on TV back then. It was very rare to see. I think I think back to the Love Boat, and there was a black man on there, and I was like, wow, like there was a show actually that had a colored guy on there. But someone
Um,
pointed that out to me, and I was like, yeah, but that's the era that we were growing up, and we had to grow through that.
and
And
also figuring out what our language is around people of color and Black people, like, Isaac, that was his name.
yes,
He wasn't,
Isaac.
but back in that time, he was considered colored. He's not
Mhm.
colored.
Mm-mm.
He was, right now we would say he was an African American man, but there weren't a lot of African Americans or people of color, whether they be Indian, Asian. They weren't on television. They're not represented. And now in this era, we have, and the gays were flamboyant.
Yeah.
It's obvious that they're gay. And now it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. It's not so obvious. We're not painting caricatures of people anymore,
Hmm.
which is amazing. But a lot of us parents grew up in those eras. So we're still accidentally using that pattern language and those phrases and that mindset with our children today, whether they be in elementary school, middle school, or high school, or even college. We're using our language that we learned inappropriately today, our
Hmm.
mindsets. And that's what's holding us up from
I think
accepting
so.
our children for who they are, what they're telling us right now.
And all the titles, right? And like, I think of like Samuel L. Jackson. No one ever says, "Oh, that black guy." They say his name now, and I think that is a beautiful thing. Like, people are just seen for being them as the actor or actresses that they are. And you're absolutely right. And I think, again, it's fear. It's
Yeah.
fear. If am I allowed to use the word gay? Do I call you a black woman, a colored woman, African American? I think everybody wants to be politically correct because they don't want to segregate. They don't want to offend. And they want to say it right because there's people like me, like, hello, I'm brown, like, I'm brown, I'm a brown girl, and people don't call me a brown woman.
And I think the political in the eff in a push to be politically correct, it sometimes erases us and makes us invisible as well.
Hmm.
Because I'm okay being recognized as a Black woman, and I'm very tall and I have big hair. I'm okay with that because that's who I am. And if this, I don't want to be erased. Samuel L. Jackson is still a Black man. He'd tell you that himself. He doesn't
Hmm.
want to be erased because we want you to see us for who we are, just like our non-binary kids, so that you can appreciate our walk,
Hmm.
so that you can see the effort that it takes to show up every day.
I look
And
at people like
and the
that. So it's
joy
like,
that and the
role,
joy that is created from all of that, you
right?
know?
But I also think it's like a great role model because also it's the whole non-binary action. When I talk to kids like your own daughter, it's just being seen as that person. It's not not to identify as any specific anything. It's just see me as me.
But me is also, and that's the one thing that I'm
But
raising my
respect,
kids,
right?
is
Respect
also
your
being,
culture.
yeah,
And
respect of culture. That's article number 1, respect of race and
it.
culture. You
That's
have to
it.
have that.
That's it. And I mean, I do see people like, and I am so glad that, we're moving into an era where people are seen as people. And at the same time, I don't ever want to not be seen as an Indian woman. Like, I love my culture now as much as I wanted to erase it. And I actually tried to erase my skin because of being teased by it for so long. And
Yeah,
now I'm even more curious about my culture. And I enjoy being, an Indian woman. And I want I think everybody should embrace their individuality and respect their
yeah,
culture and be seen for who they are.
and I think that's what our children are crying out
Trying to
for.
do. Yep.
Can I share a little conversation that happened at the studio today?
Yes, please.
because I am a coach, but I'm also by nature identify as a potter because I am. But I was there, and I was born in 67, and a woman was there, and she was born in 64. And this is important because of, like I said, our patterned lives. And she was explaining how she met someone that she saw an old friend, an old acquaintance, and she hadn't seen him for many, many years. And she asked how his twins were, again, twins. And he said, she asked in particular about how his daughter was. And because that was the only name that she remembered. And he went on to say that the daughter was now going by a different name, and their pronouns were they, and you know, yeah, I think the pronouns were they, them. That was the pronouns. And so this woman said, "Oh, okay, thanks." And but what she's telling us at the studio months and months later is she said, "No, I don't understand why he was telling me this. This is not my business. It's not like I'm going to see them. We're not even really friends. We're just distant acquaintances." And I said, "Well," and I was preparing for your show. Nothing's by coincidence. And I said, "Well, he was probably practicing." She said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, these are his kids and he loves them and he's practicing, and he's probably practicing on everyone so that he doesn't get it wrong at home, because he wants to show that he's supportive, and that means it doesn't just happen at home, it happens out in the world." And
Hmm.
also kids are, they're like the secret police. They're around and listening to everything, and who knows where his kids were. And if he had said that wrong to you and had just gone along with the handshaking of the daughter and the dead names and everything else, that's a huge thing. His kid could have heard that.
Yeah.
And she had no idea that there's this whole other world within the introduction. So she's like, "Well, you think that's what he was actually doing?" I said, "Most likely, absolutely." And he was supporting his daughter. He was keeping, I don't know if they still go by daughter, but he was keeping his kid alive.
Mm.
Because every time we mess up, every time we don't see them, it's a ding to them. And after a while, they're going to have all these dings. They're going to be all bruised up.
Mm.
So that's what he was doing. And so a part of her, because she's much older, didn't want to accept that.
Mm.
But after a few minutes, she said, "That makes sense. That's love." And I said, "Yeah, that's true love. He's going to practice on every freaking stranger because that's what his kid needs."
Mm. That is so beautiful. So beautiful. It reminds me of, your daughter. You and I were talking about, because I think I had to have a schedule change. And you said, you were saying they. And I was like, "Oh, but I haven't met your other twin." And then you're like, "No, I was referring to Fee." And I was like, "Oh, good for you, Mama. I'm so proud of you." Because that was the first time you and I have actually texted about it. And I was like, when I shared that conversation with your daughter, she lit up. She's like, "Really?" And I said, and I was the one that had to apologize because I kept saying she. So your
Yeah,
mom knew who I was talking about, and your mom saying they.
I was
And
correcting you. I was
and
correcting you.
and I said, your mom corrected me. And your daughter lit up.
Yeah.
It's like, here my mom, to her, it was like sticking up for her. Not and she tells me, I always tell her, I said to all 6 of my clients, I said, "Please forgive me
Yeah.
in advance if I mess up."
That's why
Because
I'm not correcting you now, because it takes a beat. It takes a beat.
it does.
And I understand that. I really, really do. And Fee talked to me about that with you, and they said, "Yeah, just like you, Veenu, it's taking a minute." And I said,
It
it's gonna,"
is. It's the
but
grammar thing. It
you
so
know what?
is. It's the
Yeah.
looking at you and seeing a woman and thinking in my head she, because
Yeah.
we learned that. And grammar was hammered into me. Like my mom is still the
Oh,
grammar Nazi to me. And so now I literally, when I speak to them, on our coaching calls, I am so good. And sometimes I'm like, "Girl," to one of my other clients, "Oh, so sorry." And she's like, "Miss V, it's okay." Cause I say that too. I'm like, "Okay, thank you." Cause
well, they're working it.
I
You
never
know?
want my kids
Yeah.
and my coaching clients to ever feel I don't respect them. And I always
Well,
give them permission to correct me.
Well, now that they know what grace means, I mean, both of my twins were like, "Oh, what's grace? What does that mean exactly?" And I'm like, I don't know how to explain it." But now that they know what it means, there is there they do feel they're giving that to all of us.
Nice.
You to me,
Yeah.
and it's reciprocal because we're giving it back, and they understand that we're
Mhm.
human. Because now that they feel seen, they understand the human aspect and that humans trip. But what really matters, it's not the fall, it's how we get back up.
Right.
Are we defensive when we get back up? Oh, well, I'm getting there like I was. Or are we getting back up with grace ourselves and with
Mm.
gratitude?
Oh, I just got
Thank you so
chills.
much. Grace and gratitude, man. I'm learning so many new things and I love it. I love it. And like you said, it's not a problem to solve, it's an opportunity. And
Mhm.
my kid is awesome.
They
No
are.
matter what, I don't care. My kid is awesome, and I wanna support all that in their path and their coping skills and their road to learning who they are and how they see the world. I don't wanna mess with that
Right.
in any shape and form, I don't wanna mess with that. It's crazy, right?
You know,
Wild and wacky rides.
I think it goes, and because you're a coach too, nothing has a meaning but the meaning we give it. And then with the meaning we give it, we have rules around it.
Yes, what's the story we're telling ourselves, right?
Right. And the rules, we say, okay, if we see a female, it must be a she or her because that's the way it's a belief system.
Right.
And now we just got to change that belief system. And, again, doing the best that we can. And one of my clients, they say, Miss V, you don't have to keep apologizing. I said, yes, I do. And they're like, no, really, you don't. And I said, for me, I do because it catches me. It tells me that I'm first aware.
Yeah, yeah,
I got to be aware. I got to be aware when I'm saying it. And that way I can fix it because I need you to know that I respect you.
yeah.
I support you. I walk along the side of you.
And we're learning together.
Correct. Correct.
I had, lunch with a friend a few weeks ago, and they have a transgender child, a girl, and love this family, love this child, been knowing this family and this child forever. The child is like 10 or 11 years old. And, and I'm calling everyone they now because I'm practicing with my kid. And she said, no, she's a she. And I said, I know, because for a second I had to catch myself. I know, but I'm calling everyone they so that I don't mess up with my kid and some of my kids' friends and other families. And so she said, "Oh, I get that, but she's a she." And what I realized is they have their own journey in their family as well, and
Yeah.
she is important. And I appreciated the connection, and I
Yeah.
think she appreciated where I was coming from too. Like, we're all trying to do the best that we can.
We are. We're all in this together.
Yeah,
And we're either going to be a force to support this and help them through this journey. And I loved what you said at the beginning of the call. It's not about predicting where this journey is going to take them, whether they're going to stay this way or whether they're not. Who cares? Be in the moment, be present now. What is the formula for you to get close to your child? Be curious, ask
yeah.
questions. I ask my child all the time, how do you know I love you? How do you know I appreciate you?
Oh, I
And
love that.
because I want to know that if the one thing I don't want to know is or hear, I don't know, because I want to know that I'm always showing them in their formula, the way that they know how to receive it. And yes, love languages, and it goes beyond that. You know, it goes beyond that because my daughter's definitely, words of affirmations and a touch person. And sometimes she just needs her mama, and I'm teaching her that you don't have to act out for me to get your attention. You could just say, Mom, I need a hug. So like every day, like 5 times a day, she comes up, she goes, I just need a hug. And it's like, well, come on, bring it in, get a hug. Because it's so important that we are teaching our kids that emotional intelligence as well. Know what you feel and don't be afraid to ask for it. Because
And asking those questions is so important.
Mhm,
What do you need to know that you're loved?
mhm.
We don't ask that enough.
It also teaches them they're worth it.
Yeah.
that you are so worth it. I want to know your formula. I don't want to keep giving it my way. I want to know from you, what's your formula, right? That's what's important to me. So they know their worth, but they also start to know that self-love. Like,
Yeah.
wow, because if I need a hug or I need to be recognized, like, how am I recognizing myself? You know,
Yeah.
am I giving myself that same type of love and attention? And there's kids that self-harm, and I always ask them, I say, who do you love in your life? And they'll say, well, I love my mom or I love my dad. And I'm like, so if they were hurting or they were having a problem, would you go cut them? And these kids are like, no. I'm like, why wouldn't you cut your mom? And because it's my mom, I love her. So what would have to happen for you to love yourself the way you love your mom?
Yeah.
That
These
is
are
powerful.
these are pivotal times to teach this,
Yes.
because it's hard to insert this information about self-love later in life. There are so many adults that I know that don't understand that they have intrinsic value,
Right.
don't understand that they have to love themselves first to love someone else. They don't know how to do that. So, like I said, opportunity, right? To
Right.
learn new things.
And it's giving them permission. It's giving them permission. The fact that you have allowed yourself to grow, to appreciate them, and to show them that, hey, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
You can come and talk to me about that. Anything that's going on in your life allows them to say, hey, I'm worth it. Like, because we are they were the first people that show our kids are worth it. We give them birth, we bathe them, we feed them, we clothe them, we give them safety, shelter. They're going to come to us all the time to say, am I worth it? Am I worth it? Because I was worth it when I came out of your womb. Am I worth it now? Right. And
Or am I only worth it if I'm doing what you want me to do, or doing what society wants me to do the way that they want me to do it? Like I said, we only have a few years to put this information in there and let them know that they have value outside of us as well.
mm,
So important. It's so I can't even stress how important that is. That is I want my kids to know that it's not even about me.
right.
I wanna teach them how to value themselves over all the voices.
Right. And you only get one shot to be you, and there's no one else in this world that's going to be you.
Right.
So show up the best version of you. And what would that look like? And if that's you being non-binary, if that's you being gay, bisexual, then you do you, and be the best at it, right? Be the best at who you can be. And because that is your self-worth, that is your self-love. Love yourself enough to be you,
Exactly.
you know?
And then
And
as parents, we have to jump on board with that and ask be what is it? Curiosity over criticism?
yep, be
Yeah.
curious, not critical.
Yeah.
So, Arla, as a mom, so we're going to just sum this up, in the next minute. For those moms out there or the parents out there that are struggling because this is a new identity, can you give like a couple tips that you could share with them to help them process through this?
Um, gosh, figure out for yourself what love means to you,
Mhm.
because it really everything that we're gonna give to our kids comes from inside of us, and if we need to learn new things, then we need to learn new things, and, be open to that. Be open to learning what love actually is, not the paradigm that we were taught.
Mm.
I mean, that's the biggest thing that worked for me is,
Uh,
"Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you." What does that actually mean?
mhm.
And what does that other person actually need? And also, we can accidentally create these warped visions and identities of what love is if we're not tapping into self and getting the care that we need to.
Right. I love it. Thank you so much. You've been so amazing, so real, so raw. I know that there's going to be parents out here that are going through, the shifts and the opportunities that you are. So I can't thank you enough for coming out here and just being real and raw with us. I mean, this is such an important topic. And like I always say, and I teach all my parents so well, be curious, not critical. Be curious, not critical. Thank you guys so much. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.